Good morning, friends. Let's try to understand now about machine learning and some basic concepts of it. Machine learning. Basically, inside the Internet of Things, machine learning plays an important role. Machine has to be trained on various parameters so that the machine can behave like what we expect from it. Machine learning. How to make sense of the data that is generated or not. Tools and algorithms are needed to find the data relationships. So basically, in the IoT infrastructure, when there are multiple sensors available which are capturing the data through the devices and providing it to software, at that time we need to make sense out of the data, and multiple tools are needed and algorithms for finding out, of course, the relationship between the data. Data collected by smart objects needs to be analyzed, and intelligent actions needs to be taken based on this analysis. When we capture large amount of data, then only an intelligence can be drawn out of it. It means that the IoT module will be in a position to take some decisions if large amount of data is available with it. So for example, in self-driving vehicles, we know that abnormal pattern recognition in crowd is done using the machine learning. In machine learning, there are basically two types of learning. One is called as supervised learning and the another one is called as unsupervised learning. Learning happens through the data. If you have a data which is containing the labels, in that particular scene, it is called as supervised learning. And if the data is unlabeled, it is called as unsupervised learning. So you need to understand over here is that from the data the learning is happening irrespective of the fact that it is labeled or unlabeled. So that is what we will see in this. So in the supervised learning, the machine is trained with input for which there is a known correct answer. For example, training a system to recognize when there is a human in a mine tunnel. So here a sensor equipped with a basic camera can capture the shapes and return them to the computing system, that based on the ages of the body of a human being, that this is the person which is present into the tunnel. So training, we need to train the system. Second, training set. With supervised learning techniques, hundreds and thousands of images are fed into the machine. Each image is labeled. So this is a kind of the training set which is a labeled training set. Label means the tags are associated with that particular data which is giving more information about that particular data. In classification, comparing the captured image with the training data set with the help of algorithm to find any deviation. So in classification, we can classify a kind of the data from the another kind of the data. So always you will have such kind of scenario that when you will have large amount of data na, at that time there can always be the groupism possible for that particular data, that large amount of data must or can be divided into multiple different classes. That is what is called as a classification. Supervised learning is efficient only with a large training set. Larger training sets usually lead to higher accuracy in the prediction. So if we have larger training sets, then the prediction will be more correct. Regression: train the machine with the measured values so the machine can predict the values. Unsupervised learning: hundreds or thousands of parameters are computed. Small cumulative deviations in the multiple dimensions are used to identify the exceptions. So what is happening over here? We are finding out the deviations because the data is unlabeled. In unsupervised learning, there is not good or bad answer known in the advance. It is the variation from the group behavior that allows the computer to learn that something is different. Finding defect from thousands of small engine keeping many parameters like sound, pressure, temperature of key parts and so on. Each parameter need to compare with each other to find the defects in the engine. So here it is giving us more idea about clustering and deviation detection when it comes to unsupervised learning. You can see there is a lot of data that is available and which is differentiated from each other in terms of the colors like blue, red, yellow and green. So graph of grouping and deviation identification logic is three parameters are graphed: components 1, 2 and 3 and 4. Distinct groups clusters are found. In graph, some points green color that are far from the respective groups. Individual devices that display such out of cluster characteristics should be examined more closely individually. So here you can observe the green is a kind of the groups which is different from the regular groups, and it is shown over here clearly into this particular diagram. Now after knowing that in the machine learning the two major categories are there, like the supervised learning or unsupervised learning. Now in the supervisor learning requires training the machine was often deemed too expensive and complicated along with a lot of computing power. However, internet made it easy, but training a machine to differentiate them requires more than the basic parameter. Now only your data, which is a labeled data and unlabeled data, will not be sufficient when it comes to machine learning. It requires few more parameter than that, because whenever we are talking about understanding the items, the higher level parameters needs to be known and that are fulfilled or understood using the neural networks. So machine can be able to distinguish between human from the another mammals is more difficult. So neural networks come into the picture. Neural networks are machine learning methods that mimic the way human brain works. So when we look at the human figure, multiple zones of brains are activated to recognize the colors, movement, facial expressions and so on. Our brain combines these elements to conclude that the shape you are seeing is a human. So in neural network, the information goes through different algorithms, each of which processing the aspects of the information. The resulting value of one unit computation can be used directly or fed to the another unit for further processing to occur. The great efficiency of the neural network is that each unit processes the simple test, therefore the computation is quite fast. So how does the neural network work, right? So here we need to recognize a dog in a photo. So during the training phase, a neural network is fed into thousands of labeled images of various animals, learning to classify them. Input: an unlabeled image is shown to the pre-trained network. First layer में क्या हो रहा है? The neural network respond to different simple shapes like edges, like the border lines. As we have discussed about the human being into that mind. Here also At the higher layer, neurons respond to more complex structure. Top layer, neurons respond to highly complex abstract concepts that would identify the different animals. Output, the network predicts what the object is most likely to be based on the training. So you can see over here in the output it is showing that it is about 90% dog and 10% wolf. So this is how the dog is identified in the image. So neural networks have the number of units and the layer, the type of the data processed at each layer, and the type and combination of algorithm used to process that data to make processing more efficient for specific application, not like supervised learning. So in the supervised learning it is about the labeled data, but in the neural network it is about understanding more complex features using multiple layered approach. In the neural network, information is divided into key components and each component is assigned a weight. Weight compared together decide the classification of this information, like face, no straight line, smile, which is not observed in the another animals. So it will be a human basically. When the result of the layer is fed into another layer, the process is called as a deep learning. Deep because the learning process has more than a single layer. Advantage of deep learning is that having more layers allow for the richer intermediate processing and representation of the data at each layer. The data can be formatted to be better utilized by the next layer. This process increases the efficiency in the overall result. So neural network, a part of a machine learning, of course, after the supervised and unsupervised learning, but plays a key role in training the machines. Thank you.